I don't know how big it was. It was a big motorcycle. And this guy comes flying by and looks over at us, sets it down, comes flying back by our riders group, doing like a one-handed wheelie, looking over at us. And Lars Larson looks at all of us people in the class and goes, "Crazy fucking Americans." And it was Bob Grossi.
Yeah.
It was Bob Grossi and that big old TM Suzuki.
Oh, the Suzuki.
And ever since that day, I had to have a TM Suzuki. I got my TM in '74. That thing, I broke it in half so many times. There's my 1975 125 Elsinore. Now that's when I started going fast. That's right when I went expert. That was a good bike. Always crashed. Rode with bent bars all the time.
Magoo was like wild. He kept breaking the bike, you know. He had the style, but the thing always broke. I remember his little leather seat. I don't know if Nancy Lee built that for you or whatever, but it was like a little leather CZ seat, you know, just with the flaps and everything as a stock. We were like, where'd you get that?
Went to this race in White Rock, California. Saw this guy doing these big one-handed wheelies and long hair hanging on the back of his helmet, and he's riding this 250 CZ. I idolized this guy. I mean, his name was Brad Lackey.
You know, like somebody said the other day, forget how they put it, but you know, back when men were men and bikes were junk, you know? Because basically, you know, we were developing them, we were breaking them, you know, to have Buchanan wheels and spokes and shit now that the bikes have that don't ever blow up, somebody had to blow up a few wheels to get to that point, and that was Danny and me and a few other guys.
I could go out and blow up 5 wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, my first experience with it was when he came up to our house up in North San Juan to get some leathers made, and I remember seeing his bike all shortened, the seat all real low and everything, and my mom made him a set of leathers, and so I've known him forever. You know, followed his career. He's one of the first guys I got to paint his helmets for, and kind of supported everything I did, which was really cool. You know, really helped put our company on the map.
Turned professional at 16. First pro race was at Plymouth, California, 1976. The first moto, I was like 3rd or 4th place, and wadded up real hard.
Danny was one of the other guys that jumped on big bikes at a young age because there really wasn't a big amateur thing back then, so a lot of guys in Southern California and Northern California would go to pro as soon as they could. So
he stood apart. I mean, this is the first guy that ever did a double jump. First guy that the average person could relate to, the working class man, you know, that wasn't a factory rider, and did things that had never been done before. I mean, it was just fucking incredible. You're seeing a motocross taken to a new level.
Everybody talked about this, you know, mysterious Magoo, how that at any time he was the fastest guy in the world, but always had the big crashes and was inconsistent and stuff like that.
I remember at Marysville, and where it was always fun to watch you was you'd come off of the dropaways, and you wouldn't just, you know, drop down. You'd be sideways. When you'd hit the ground on that thing, it'd roost 40 feet in the air, and you'd go like a bullet, just out and just gone.
You know, ever since I was a little boy, 9 years old, you know, trophy girls, it's no excuse, but I like to kiss girls. And you were a person who were always there with me, Billy. I mean, I watch riders and mechanics today. They don't play together, you know, and we played together, and that was the best way to learn.
Well, there was no doubt that Danny was the most aggressive rider on the track, and he had no quit inning. He would give it 100% always, and you never had to worry as a mechanic that he was going to go out there and be half-hearted. He was going to give it his all every time, and that's just the way he was. Danny had more heart than any rider I've ever worked for or any rider I ever saw.
In 1976, was my first year on the Nationals, and we had a cement company, some local friends, Elk Grove Ready Mix. They agreed to buy me 2 motorcycles and give me $15,000 cash to do my first year on the Nationals. We were at a National in St. Louis, Missouri, and I met this guy in the pits, B.J. Ertley, and he owned a motorcycle shop in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and we got to talking with him. He would go to all around Arkansas and Nebraska and Kansas City and talk to promoters about paying, you know, like $400 or $500 just to show up, and then there would be a $3,000 purse. So he gave me a 125, a 250, and a 500, and that sponsored my second year on the Nationals. So it would be my father, who was a man who smoked two packs of cigarettes a day, living in a van with another man who was the same age, who hated cigarettes, and he loved country music, and my dad hated music and loved his CB radio. Now imagine a 16-year-old kid and a 40-year-old man, another 40-year-old man, fighting over the CB and the radio, and then arguing over cigarettes, when you could smoke and when you couldn't smoke, for what, 5 months? Oh.
I went to Sears Point to watch him do one of the, outdoor motocrosses they used to run out there on the hills, and he was pretty impressive riding that Magoo, just flat stick the whole way. And I often wonder what he would be able to do with the stuff that we're on, now today, because he was this crash, blow, or put a hole in the wall kind of attitude.
Magoo days. Billy called up and said he had a Magoo here for me to ride.
I think the first series we did was the Golden State, wasn't it? The California series.
We won the 250 championship that year.
Yeah, then Magoo approached us and...
Well, I remember we had a bidding contest with KTM and Magoo.
Yeah, if you could call it that.
Well,
yeah, it was.
It would have been.
It was, but it wasn't a lot of money in those days.
But,
I guess it was.
They offered me like $27,000 and plus expenses and a box truck.
Yeah,
and they offered us factory bikes from Germany, Works bikes.
Right.
That was when it was 3 motos, and you got 10 laps. Now you go to the races and you sit around all day and you get 4 laps, 1 minute lap times. So.
There came a point when we got this dog. This blue tick hound dog.
Yeah, buddy.
We would go to, like Redbud, Michigan or something. We'd been testing or riding, and I would take off for a little run, just as a game, and try to outrun the dog. I'd take off like, 40-minute run, and you'd let the dog go like 10 minutes after I took off running, and that dog would catch me. That's how I believe I really started training. And then at 21, I really started applying it. I started lifting. It was like a video game to me. I just plug it in and I watched Billy run. I watched how Billy did setups. I started getting in shape and I started whipping everybody's ass.
A lot of people used to say he was crazy. I never thought he was crazy because the things he would try and the things he would do were things he was capable of doing. And he always did things that other people couldn't do, but they didn't have the talent he had.
Yeah, Saddleback Park and Magoo Double. He was always the first guy to try everything.
The way to describe it was like controlled chaos. It was either a make or break situation with Danny, and it was always a real thrill and a fun thing to get to see him ride.
But when you had somebody like a Danny Magoo Chandler and Daryl Schultz and guys that weren't leading points but were always the first guys to do jumps, it changed the complexity of racing and forced the top guys to do shit that they didn't want to do.
If you don't crash once in a while, you're not going fast enough. So as soon as I signed up with Magoo, we started getting fan mail. I'd never really gotten fan mail before, and the secretary at Magoo came in the workshop and gave me this great big envelope with all these letters. I got to this like 4th or 5th letter, and it was a teacher from Sacramento asking me if I would come to the grammar school and talk to the kids about my racing career. When we got there was a great big banner, welcome Danny Magoo Chandler, and I looked over at Billy and I said, oh my God, and these kids are serious about this. This was a school where kids were having a hard time reading and writing and studying. I was much the same way. In grammar school or high school, I couldn't pay attention. All I could think about was dirt bikes. So I could relate with these kids. I knew where they were.